Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon to those out there that are in the afternoon time zone. It is the Earthmaster here on this Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. It's about 12:10 p.m. here, California time. So afternoon, right? I guess it's afternoon here. Latest quake activity shows a 1.0 into the California area. I did see a little bit of movement here across the southern end of the San Andreas Fault this morning with a handful of smaller quakes just off of the, the southern end of the San Andreas Fault, one on the Pacific side and one on the North American side of the plate boundary. Very small earthquake activity, no swarming yet, but just a handful of some smaller quakes across the area today. Further up north into Long Valley supervolcano has been seeing a little bit of smaller microquake activity as well. The latest, a 2.5 in the Deep Springs area. That's just off the Fish Lake Valley fault zone. This area had seen some pretty good earthquake swarming back in April and May. It's been awfully quiet here since then, but looks like maybe a little activity starting to stir up there in that region of the state. Also, Northern California, seeing a little bit of activity with a 2.3, the latest quake activity here in Northern California. Up across the Idaho and Yellowstone region, seeing a little bit of activity as well. A couple different clusters of quakes here off the Red Rock Fault. It's a Sheep's Creek section there in Idaho, seeing some activity, including a three-pointer yesterday. Now Yellowstone showing a little bit of activity here today. Looks like a small swarm going on here across the western edge here of the Yellowstone region. So let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone overview and see what we may have. Always like to double check and see if anything's brewing out here. Looks like, yeah, definitely centered over here on the northwest corner of the park. There is the earthquake activity in question. That's what we look for in terms of earthquake activity. This here is not earthquake activity that's spread out in that fashion. That's from last night, some wind events or thunderstorms that were blowing through there. We'll probably see those again today. But as far as earthquake activity goes, there's a handful of quakes here, a little bit more than what USGS is stating here. I count at least maybe 20 within this view, maybe a little bit more if you want to count all these other smaller spikes. And that is probably about, they're only reporting about half of what I'm seeing. 10 earthquakes, the USGS is reporting, the largest a 1.4, followed up by a couple other smaller earthquakes there. But as you can see, got a little bit more than 10 going on out there. This earthquake right here, let's see where that is. That's one of the larger ones there in that cluster. This earthquake here that you're seeing at a distant, I believe that is from yesterday's three-pointer there in Idaho. That was a 3.3 over there around the Sheep's Creek Fault that I just showed you on the map. But as far as local seismic activity goes, looks like I think that's a little bit bigger than the 1.7 that they're claiming. Either way, a good handful of earthquakes there across Yellowstone today. We'll continue to watch that. I believe that's all due to heightened seismic activity out here across the western portion of the country. It's been awfully quiet here across California for the most part, so a lot of that momentum and strain has to transfer somewhere else, right? That momentum tends to build in other faults inland, and these earthquakes are occurring off of some fault systems that really haven't been active in a while. The Sawtooth Fault system over here in Idaho, yes, that's a little bit further to the west, but areas up around this region have not been super active. And this activity here around Yellowstone is roughly, what do we got? Anywhere between 2 and 18 kilometers deep. So I believe these are fault-related earthquake activity, but we'll continue to watch that for any uptick and whatnot. Over here across Oklahoma, outside of Enid, Helena region, I should say, a 1.5, 7.9 kilometers for that earthquake. And low activity has been sparking up here outside the Oklahoma City area over the past week or so. The last 7 days of all magnitudes shows a couple different clusters out here around a couple different oil fields. and it looks like that area is getting hit as well. The weak areas out there in the crust, Texas area as well. 3.9 earlier this morning out here in the massive oil field areas here. You can see them. We have to zoom in to see them. And it's going to be these little checkered boxes out here that have a massive amount of oil fields and wastewater disposal ponds. That's what these are right here. As we zoom in, that's not a beautiful green swimming pool. Kind of looks like a place for the workers to just take a break, right, and jump in the pool. I would not be jumping in that pool. These are wastewater disposal ponds, and out there in the oil fields, there's a whole process involved in that whole operation. But at the same time, many earthquakes that have happened and many more to come. Over here on the Puerto Rico area, the last earthquake looks like a 5.0 there from yesterday. That's just outside the Puerto Rico Trench area. The last specific one, though, is a 3.0, about 74 kilometers deep here north of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Into the South America region, a couple fours there from yesterday. As far as today's activity goes, there's a handful of some smaller quake activity listed on the Earthquake 3D globe. Quite a few 2s and 3s out there. Middle America Trench, about the same, some 2s and 3s. That area was showing some uptick over the past week. Nothing above 4, at least according to the USGS for now. Further to the west, New Zealand, nothing showing up here, at least on the USGS map. Earthquake 3D globe here shows a looks like a recent 3-pointer around South Island, and also a older 3.0 North Island, a little bit deeper as well. Go ahead and check out the GeoNet server here real quick and see what we have for earthquake activity. Going to go to the all magnitudes here. This is the list view, and the earthquakes over here on the map. This little dot here is where those earthquakes are occurring. 2.5 South Island. There's a 2.9 up here around the North Island area. Where'd those 3s go? Unless the GeoNet servers are reporting them smaller than what the... well, there's a 3.1 there from yesterday. Alright, let's double check the earthquake drums. That'll give us a good indicator on a broad view of what's going on. As far as earthquake activity goes, it looks like about 10 hours ago or so, there's that 3-pointer North Island area. And the 3-pointer down south is going to be right about here, about 6 hours ago. But aside from that, that's about it. New Zealand is a quiet one today. 4.7 into the Kermadec Trench or the Tonga Trench, one of the two here. I believe it's the Kermadec Trench, northern edge from yesterday. 527 kilometers deep for that earthquake. Across areas of the Indonesia Islands area, 220 kilometer deep, 4.7 over here around Papua New Guinea. That's into the outside the Solomon Sea, into the Bismarck Sea area. This is a trench zone right here, though. So we'll watch this area potentially for some further movement around the Solomon Sea. Earthquake activity has been generally absent here across the northern portion of the Philippine Plate and the western portion here of the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is going to be this area here across the Mariana Islands northward. Very quiet. So we got 2 specifically quiet locations here over the last couple days, listed across this broad view of the Pacific, and also the Solomon Islands area eastward has been quiet as well for a couple days. Now that should change here very soon. We do have a 4.2 coming into the Turkey area, it looks like right now. Let's go ahead and double check that and see what we have going on. I forgot. Keep clicking on it. They just haven't updated their linkage to the EMSC yet, so that will show up here. Give it a second. EMSC has just updated their entire website to a... it's a format I'm kind of getting used to, but it's still got a couple bugs in it. I am not... It says last hour, but I'm not seeing that earthquake. This one here is from that's a 2.8. .2 Let's see what we got last 24 hours ago. Looks like it was probably around here, 4.2. There we go. It's just been over the hour period. They're in western Turkey. Obviously some aftershock activity occurring around that region. The Atlantic Ocean up here, things still ongoing across the Iceland area with the volcanic activity. Nothing really shown up here on the USGS map as far as increasing activity goes, which would obviously be a sign of maybe a possible larger eruption. But I think that 5-pointer that was triggered a couple days ago prior to the eruption was about it. Things should start to mellow down in terms of earthquake activity now that the magma has found a sufficient way to the surface. A little bit of movement there across the northern Atlantic. And aside from that, most of the divergent boundaries out there look pretty quiet today. There's another 0.9 coming in to the area of California. Watch this here today. Like I say, we've been noticing a little bit of earthquake activity here across the southern end of the San Andreas Fault. There's that 0.9. Not for sure what they're trying to explode up here off of the Elsinore fault system, Quarry Blast. But we'll keep an eye on this area with the increasing, it's not a major swarm, not even a swarm, but it is some increasing activity here around the southern end of the San Andreas Fault. We'll watch that. All right, in Alaska, Anchorage showing quite a bit of activity up here today. It looks like a couple of these earthquakes above 2.5, 40 kilometers deep. Nothing major going on up here yet. The last major earthquake, it's been a little while. Remember that 8-pointer that was up here a couple years back? We had 3 8-pointers that year. Not up here, but they were positioned all across the area. All right, let's see. Space weather activity. Let's go ahead and pull this up and see what we have today. This is getting exciting with this newer sunspot that's coming around the bend. Here's yesterday's image, 3372. Today, let's see what we have. There it is. This was sparking off some M-flare activity yesterday, late last night. We got a better view of it. Right now, it still appears to be fairly complex. Has a couple different structures here in the cores that pose some harbor some potential for some further strong flaring. Also, these two little sunspot regions here are fairly complex. Got a massive sunspot region down here. The individual large core is fairly stable, but we're looking at a new little developing region down here that's showing a little bit of unstable complex structure in that magnetic field that it harbors. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. That one's directly facing Earth, but I think we'll watch a number of sunspots here today for some potential flaring overnight. Of course, we did see a peak here in the M-flare category. Almost an M-flare baseline here. We were almost above the M-flare category for a little while. But we did have a number of M-flares here. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. At least 9, maybe 10 here within the last couple days, which is pretty sufficient. Some of those were some strong M-flares, almost reaching into the X-flare category. But since last night, it looks like things have calmed down slightly, but that's not, it doesn't always mean that it's going away as far as the potential for some stronger flaring goes. 99% chance for a C-flare, M-flare at 55% chance, X-flare around 20%, and that should stay elevated with the complex cores out there in many sunspot areas. A look at the UV filter rays here. Still shows this area flaring slightly. Notice that bright feature. And also over here, it looks like a far side sunspot. Well, watch this one down here. That's a massive, big one. It is gaining a little bit of unstable structure south of the main core. We'll watch that maybe for some arcing, so to speak. Either way, SFI is gaining some strength. That is the solar flux index, the energy, so to speak, here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. Let's see. And by the way, that strong solar storm that's been mentioned on many social media platforms has yet to make itself known. I mean, we're only looking at a slight elevated increase there on the Thursday time period, but There's quite a few news articles claiming that we're looking at a strong storm in 14 states here. Well, I just don't see it. And I mentioned that. I kind of threw that out there a couple nights ago. I said I didn't see it. I don't see it. I still don't see it. I don't see it at all. That's just, it's not showing up anywhere. And if you look at other space weather agencies, even if you look at the raw data yourself, it's just not there. Let's see. These guys are saying Earth-directed CME updated. It looks like on the 11th. See, but this here is a new CME. They're not talking about the one that the news agencies were talking about. This is from just yesterday, and those news agencies have been floating around for a couple days. So potentially on the 14th, which is not Thursday, that's going to be obviously on Friday or a little bit later, late hours. Then we could see a glancing blow from that CME that was up on the northeastern limb of the sun. It looks like the majority of it will sail past south of our Earth-Sun plane. But far as that one that's expected for tomorrow, that was a fluke. I'm not even for sure where they're getting their information from. Apparently, it was either old information or false information, because there are no solar storms coming this way Thursday like they had proclaimed. And they weren't even talking about this one because this stuff happened after the fact. All right. Storm Prediction Center here today. Moderate risk. Or no, not moderate, excuse me. Enhanced risk here for some severe weather across portions of eastern Kansas into areas around Missouri as well. There is a slight chance here, a 5% probability of tornadoes up around the Chicago area today. Large population area, looks like 11 million people around that area, 5% probability. Also, the 2% has a good amount of coverage as well. So if you're within these areas today, 5% is just a region that has the most dynamic ingredients for producing a strong tornado. So we're talking about probability of a tornado within 25 miles of a point, the 5% chance there. Just keep an eye on that area if you're in that region. I think the main threat's going to be some large damaging hail and some wind gusts out there today, as listed up there on the chart. And it's just a lot of thunderstorm activity out there today. Desert Southwest is getting in on some more moisture. That includes areas around Texas. California, we're going to cook. We are still looking at some extreme heat coming up. We're underneath a heat warning currently here where I live, around the Chico area. And we're talking about temperatures reaching up into the 110, 115 degree range come this weekend. It looks like the first very hot day. Well, today we're supposed to be about 100, which is hot, but it's not the extreme heat that we're looking at. Look at Friday afternoon time period here in the northern Sacramento Valley. Redding 111, 109 in Chico, 111 in Willows. And that's only going to get hotter on the day on Saturday. Look at this. Things cooking above 115, 116 for Willows. Sacramento is going to break some records down here because the influence here of the Delta breeze is going to be absent or very minimal at best. Sunday is supposed to be the hottest day around here. Although it looks like maybe Sacramento area is going to get a little bit cooler because of that Delta breeze. But up here, let's see here. Make sure I have the correct hour because these hours vary. There we go. Around 4 o'clock when the maximum heating takes place there. Looks like 118 around Willows, 115 up in Redding, 115 for Chico. We're going to start. I don't know, have to stay inside, or I might have to take a trip over here to the coast where it's going to be a nice cool 59 degrees around Mendocino and Point Arena area, San Francisco 62, but I try to stay out of this general area. Not a big fan of this region whatsoever. Too much traffic, too much risk of earthquake potential. Not saying there's not earthquake potential over here, but at least I can get out to higher ground without a massive traffic jam. Oregon's going to cook a little bit as well, but there's going to be a strong heat index across many areas here of the west, and it looks like that's going to last for, obviously for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before a slight cool down happens. Let me show you guys the ridging that's going to take place here beginning on Friday. This is Friday. A building high pressure system, building dome over the west coast, gaining strength here all across the Pacific Northwest. Saturday, Sunday. Before Monday, there's a low pressure trough that will bring slightly cooler temperatures there into the Pacific Northwest. A little bit of relief here for Northern California, but still going to stay hot down here across the desert Southwest. And it looks like that's going to fill back in. We only got a day or two break before more extreme heat cooks the West and Pacific Northwest. And of course, this is towards the end of July. It's a ways out, but I think it's going to be a hot one. We've been relatively cool out here so far this summer, and we're just going to cook. We are going to cook with some extreme heat. All right, I think that's about it here, folks, for the earthquake update. Just stay safe today. Keep an eye on the weather, like I mentioned up here, across Chicago, Illinois area. Weather aware is the key today. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tonight with the update. Welcome to all the new members. We're coming up with the update, or the member drawing. You can win a $50 Visa MasterCard, Earthmaster t-shirt, or a geology mining kit on the 15th. 3 days. Make sure you become a member here today to be automatically entered into the drawing. It's kind of our way of just appreciating everyone out there. And of course, we're coming up very close to our 100,000 subscriber giveaway. We're short a little bit, just under the 2,000 mark here. It's kind of slowed down slightly, but we'll see if we can't get that rolling, hopefully by the end of August, maybe, the way things are going. If not, sooner, hopefully. Make sure you guys subscribe while you're here for the latest updated information here on earthquakes, space weather activity, and everything else Earth-related. We'll catch you guys back here later tonight. Have a good one, everyone. Peace out.